Welcome to Mantras for Peace with Georgia Wyss, the Mantra movie filmmaker. I'm so pleased and honored to have you here with us today. Clearly another lover of mantra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So will you just tell everybody who you are and what was your inspiration for creating this massive, amazing project that you've just done?
Well, I've just been working in film for 25 years. I've been working as a film editor, and so I was working on many different projects, a lot of documentaries, commercials, also some feature film, and I was living in New York for about 6 years, where I was working on music documentaries and music series, music videos, and so I had a love for music films. And it came to me when a very close friend, well, as I said, I was working as an editor, and but the mantras came to me in a difficult phase in my life, a very difficult phase. And a very, very close friend of mine got sick with cancer. She was my age, and I was kind of at her side during the 5 years until she eventually passed. And in this time, I got to know very much the music of Deva Prema and Miten and of Lama Guillaume. I don't know if you know him. But that was like my anchor. That was what I needed during this phase, you know? And she actually didn't listen to that music so much, but I needed it. That was like she was living in Berlin and I was living in Barcelona, and I was going a lot between the two cities at that time. And in the airplane, I'd always be listening to the mantra music, giving me strength to be there, you know. And it's difficult. Well, it's actually quite easy to explain what it did to me, because it kind of made me feel like there's not so much boundary between life and death while listening to this music. So it really helped me to be able to be present, to support her and not bring my fear about dying with her, you know. So I really felt it gave me a lot, and to get through this, and hopefully I was also stronger to help her as well. That's what I feel. And so I made this very strong experience with this music and with mantra. So I just went on my life. I would continue working as an editor, and then when I'd be going through the footage, when I'd be working on other films, I'd always be listening to mantra. You know? So
it's a bit of an addiction, isn't it?
And it kept coming. I want to make a film about this music. I want to make a film about this, because everything else didn't feel as important to me anymore as that, of course, you know. So that's how that came, and it took a while, because I was also working on other projects. I produced another film, but the idea was always there. But then also to have the courage, because for me it was also, I mean, editing for so many years, but to actually produce and direct was a whole other step, and it just took it, you know, and then you just go, and it took 6 years, but it's like,
in geologic time, that's nothing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I can really respect and appreciate the amount of inspiration that you must have personally felt. The benefit must have been so strong to you as a, you know, lay person coming into just even listening to mantra, to have such a profound effect that you decided to go forward.
Yeah, but it's also love and understanding of music film. You know, I really had that as well. So I kind of really was able to envision it, I think, stronger. You know?
Yeah, well, it sounds like you were the perfect person for the job.
Imagining, I'd love to make music films. Was always like different artists and everything, but then it was so clear, mantra. You know, that's the music film I'd like to do. So
I love what you said, that something like nothing else felt as important.
Yeah.
And I got the sense that it was when you're listening to the mantra that you felt that sense of your own expansion of being, and that's so profound. I mean, as a mantra teacher, of course, I know that, and I see that all the time, but it's no less of a miracle or a celebration every time, someone is observing that effect within themselves. So have you, on the subject of, mantras for peace, as you've, you in the process of the filmmaking and in your process of touring to do the openings all around the world, what other kind of stories have you heard about the transformative effect of mantra?
Well, they were all actually about the transformative effect of mantra. That's well, first, actually, I can tell you, the idea was, I didn't really know what the idea was. I only knew the profound healing effects of the music, and the first idea was just to have a very musical, not spiritual, very wrong word, but very musical film, just having 5 artists and just really being with the music and the mantra. But then, of course, when we started filming and we started interviewing people, it was very clear that it was very much about the transformative effect of mantra for everybody. And then I didn't really, I knew there was kīrtan going on, I knew what that was, but we actually, Steffi, my friend, was also with me when we did our first filmings, especially with Snatamkara in Barcelona in 2013. There was about 3,500 people there in this concert hall, and it was just one of those very, very, very vibrative atmospheres where the whole audience took over, and it was just this huge, big celebration for peace and such high energy. And I think at that point, everybody was like, wow. One of the cameramen had his tears in his eyes. He knew nothing about it. It was just such a beautiful moment. Then we realized it's really goes also much more beyond than just the practice of chanting and singing, but it's really about the community getting together in celebration of peace. And that's actually when the film took a little bit of a spin, when it became more about kīrtan, or the gathering of community, or what this music does for being in harmony together. And so that's how it changed a bit, actually.
Wow, I love that. And definitely chanting the mantra has a power of its own, which you can unveil through your own personal practice. But when you come together in community of like-minded people, and actually even whether you're in person together or whether that people are chanting the same mantra at the same time around the world, like that, there is an observable, apparently exponential effect to it. And and I guess that's what we're trying to do here, is to encourage people to, maybe who haven't done mantra, to join us in elevating the volume of the peace channel. So wow, I'm just kind of blown away, actually, by just the sincerity of your project, and how you've followed the music as it was revealing new levels of its own potentiality.
Totally did,
Amazing.
And it takes a while to understand, all that energy, where's it come from and all. But it's I think there's a lot of excitement about it, and I think it's really because our society, we kind of lost that tradition of singing together, because I think people don't really go to church so much anymore, and and singing together is when we're breathing together in one rhythm. Obviously, you know all this, but it's such a beautiful new phenomenon. And
well, we're here in India today, in Rishikesh, in the foothills of the Himalayas. There's chanting going on in the background, basically 24 hours a day here. So it's not new here. But you made an interesting point, that for various reasons, church attendance is down, and we don't need to get into why that might be, but many of us modern people don't have a congregational music practice, whereas maybe a few generations ago or in other communities, other traditions, that's really that's the core of it.
Yes.
And I wonder, I think you mostly spoke with non-Indians in the movie or and in your travels around. I wonder what your personal take on that is, for why do we want to chant the Sanskrit mantras and do an Indian form of call and response rather than going into the indigenous traditions of our own ancestry, or even into our our root culture that we were raised in.
Well, our culture's kind of, our feeling for culture in the West has kind of disappeared, hasn't it? So I think the value of that is kind of unlearned in a way. People kind of maybe not forgotten about it a bit. So
because it's so mixed, or there's so many different elements going on.
No, just because it's not. From what I've seen, people don't practice it as regularly anymore. Or I mean, there are some, of course, there are cultures around, but the Western person is just the television, and that's kind of become the culture then. So
it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
The culture of the telly.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So no, I think, and I think kīrtan here is still very alive, and it's sort of quite an alive practice also within yoga, and it's also for us. I think it's really nice to sing something that we don't know what it means, because
What does that do for you?
Well, you don't stop thinking about it. All I know, it's a vibrational, beautiful meaning, and just to delve into that when you're chanting, and even if you don't really know what the actual Sanskrit meaning of the words is, even though I understand that when you know it, the intention might go further. But this is something that is ancient, that comes from Vedic studies from so many years ago. That is, that. I mean, when you know about that and you're singing it, it's. I think it helps. If I would be singing with English words, I'd just start thinking again, so you get into a different space again.
Yeah. So for you, and from what you've observed, it's the fact that it's a borrowed tradition from another culture enables those of us who are stuck in our minds to kind of bypass the mind and just get into the sound and the singing and the act of participating in the music.
That's already wonderful. And I think for those who want to deepen the practice, then once they have that profound or deepening transformative experience, when they've had that, I think it's people, if they want to go in further and learn more and study Sanskrit and get more out of it, or not, some people will, some people won't.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think it's beautiful that it has, in its way, opened up now for everybody. It's not like you have to be religious, you don't have to follow a certain guru or ashram. And I think that's really helped it become such an accessible practice now.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. It's like, people who are on the front lines of the conversations about cultural appropriation have mixed views. The same with like the yogasana, going into gyms and fitness clubs without the spiritual component. In a way, it's wonderful that people can benefit from the basic teachings, but they're missing the vastness and the cultural context, which is really essential if you want to go deeper. And the same thing with kīrtan, right? Like, just to have that tiny entry point is missing a whole lot, but it's an entry point.
It's an entry point, for
and
sure.
That's and there's something so powerful about that entry point, as I think it calls on the heartstring, like it tugs it tugs some deep string in there. At least that's what it did for me.
Yeah.
The first time I heard mantra, I was like, what's this?
Yeah,
You know?
but so many people also, like I actually remember I was doing some Reiki classes, and this was my first experience of kind of singing in a group.
Okay.
After of course, we were in a meditative state after doing meditation and the Reiki, and then I remember we sat down, she sang a Deva Prema meeting song, So Much Magnificence with you. So we were just sitting there and singing. It was like really my first, well, of course I've been singing in school with kids and everything, but I remember just feeling so incredibly uplifted after that. And I couldn't really explain why.
Yeah.
And it's just this harmony between each other. And then I actually forgot about that. And only later when I was making the film, and I remember, of course, I remember that moment when I was in that Reiki class, how incredibly happy I came out of there. Couldn't explain why, you know. And you hear these stories over and over again that happens to people, and they don't really know why, and something happens, and they come back, you know. Yeah.
I think, you know, I guess we're all in service to that.
Yeah.
You know, because when the heart opens, then everything else seems to fall in place.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our global audience? Perhaps you know, anything that you've observed in the communities that you've been sharing the movie with? Any interesting stories you have about the effect of the mantra in maybe a difficult community or?
No, I'm just trying to think. Well, we filmed in San Quentin prison.
I would say that might qualify as a difficult community.
Well,
One of the
actually,
largest prisons in the United States.
I know, but it wasn't. Well, because they have so many volunteers in that area in Buddhism and yoga and interfaith topics, and so they regularly do meditation. So
Wow.
yeah, so they're absolutely beautiful spirits there, and they bring in kīrtan once a month, and the way they talked about it in the interviews. So, and I know this is not the regular prison setup but they were just so beautiful the way they talked about kīrtan and the qualities of kīrtan, and yeah, I don't know. So
That's
did
beautiful.
you see the? No, you didn't see the film.
I haven't seen the film yet, unfortunately.
And we also filmed in a drug recovery center in Portland, Maine, and that was very nice. A difficult place. I'm just trying to think.
Well, if you're not calling a prison in a drug recovery center difficult, then I'd like to know what.
It's hard to say because the experiences in both places were so beautiful. So this is why I don't remember it as being so difficult. I don't know.
Well, I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that's as big of a testament of the power of mantra for peace than anything else.
It's true.
You know. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I think that answers my question. Yeah.
No, what I also really liked about the film, and I kind of knew that in the beginning, but it just came more and more. Like first I got in touch with Deva Prema Meeting, who come from Osho, and then next we filmed Krishna Das, who comes from Maharaji, and then Snatam Kaur came, you know, and from the Kundalini Yoga movement, and how all these interweave with each other. And then we found ourselves filming at Omega, and then was Gauravani, and you know, from the Krishna tradition. And I just absolutely love how they all come together and jam together and play music together, and it's just, you know, from all these different paths I think that's been a very, we don't really actually talk about it in the film, but you just see it because there's all these different people, and you can feel it. You can feel the coming together from these different rivers, so to speak. You know, we actually were very lucky. Krishna Das came to Barcelona, and Lama Guillaume, the Tibetan singer we have in the film, he just happened to be there, and we were allowed to film a little chant session where he'd be singing Tibetan mantras, and then Krishna Das would be singing the Sanskrit ones and the Hindu mantra, and they would be singing them in turns. And like that actually didn't end up in the film, but we've had beautiful we were able to witness beautiful moments like that. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing about the peacemaking qualities of music. I mean, you think about professionals in other disciplines,
Yeah.
might not be quite so generous
Yeah.
with sharing and collaborating, but there is the universal power of music is to make you a lover,
Yeah.
you know, and lovers are generous and lovers share, and you know, we're as musicians, it's almost expected of us to be that way as a musician, and it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's not hard to find that place of connection and collaboration
Yeah.
through the music.
No, it's instant.
Yeah, it's just like water finding water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sitting with us today and for sharing your amazing inspirations with us. I feel very grateful and like a sense of companionship and sisterhood that you've, you know, and that you've put so much of your love and passion and life force into doing this project, which I believe is going to has already opened a lot of hearts to the power of mantra, and will continue to do so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That was also the idea always, that we kind of make it in a way that it's accessible to people who know nothing about it.
Yeah.
It was actually
an entry point to the entry point.
Yeah.
I love it.
But it was, you know, it's like finding that balance where it was still no spiritual. I don't know if I should use that word always, but not too much, you know. So it would be appealing for everybody, for us, for all of us who already know about it, and that we can really enjoy it, but also be very accessible for somebody who knows nothing about it. And that was a quite a long process, you know.
I'm sure. Yeah.
We had like rough cut screenings with people, you know, from documentary film clubs where I'm in Barcelona, and different people who knew nothing about it. And that was actually one of the most difficult things, was to find that balance in the editing, as I remember it now.
Yeah, because I'm sure you could have gone in a more, you know, niche focus of developing the content and going deeper into the specific traditions, but you chose to go into the direction of making it accessible.
It has, like, I would have probably, it had been for me, or it would have been maybe more mystical, or less words, you know what I mean, just more music. So, but then we decided to put in those words and have a storyline and explain certain things. You know, so but I think it's okay. Sometimes I think, oh, there's too many words.
Well, maybe there's another movie in there.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope that it will, and it has already reached so many people.
Yeah.
And I hope it will continue to do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.